Good evening, Year 7 parents and students, or maybe not evening, depending on when you're watching this. Normally at this time of year, or actually slightly earlier, for students and parents in Year 7, we would have a Meet the Tutor evening, during which I would do an introduction to you all. And with regret, because of the current situation, we are unable to do that. I'm really sad about that because it's one of the most enjoyable evenings of the year for me when I get to see new Year 7 parents. I know we met before when your walk rounds and when you were visiting us for open evenings and things like this, which seems an awful long time ago now. But yes, I would have liked to have seen you and shaken your hands and met you and actually said, what a great first impression your sons and daughters have made on us at Hannam Woods Academy, but more of that to come later. The idea of this presentation is to outline a little bit about some of the things we're doing in school, particularly around assessment and data, and to introduce some other presentations for you, all of which will be followed up by a phone call from your child's tutor to explain a little bit more about how your individual child has done and an opportunity for you to raise any concerns or questions or issues you have with us at that point. So you'll have seen this before, but our slogan is dream big, work hard to achieve more. We really want our students to have the biggest dreams, to really have high aspirations of themselves, both in terms of careers, but also in terms of every single lesson, every piece of work they do, trying to be the best they can be, to believe in themselves, to have that inner strength that will lead to them being resilient and keeping going when things get difficult, which they definitely are at the moment. And they must believe in themselves. They are truly amazing individuals and they must have that inner belief in themselves. We want them to inspire others, and it was delightful to see how many people applied for the Year 7 leadership posts we had, but also be inspired by others, by the amazing teachers they have and by the older students around them, and that work has already started, and all of that leads to them achieving more than any of us thought possible for them. So whilst targets and grades are important, we want them to not worry about reaching those targets, but going way beyond anything that they thought was possible. We talk about this with the students a lot, the mountain that they climb, and it's obviously a metaphor for them struggling and climbing and getting higher. This particular one is around their behaviours, I suppose, and them behaving because they want to do it, because they're honest and trustworthy and hardworking, and not just because somebody's watching or they want external rewards. We want upstanding individual students who leave us in Year 11 and become responsible citizens in the community, and we want all students to behave because it's the right thing to do, and that might be learning behaviour, so working hard, or it might be behaving in social times or in the community. We really care about them and their success, and we have high expectations, and I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. We don't make any excuses for those high expectations. We don't make any excuses for our ready to learn system, which really isn't a punitive system, isn't about removing students from lessons. It's about ensuring that the vast majority of students have disruption-free learning. I'm delighted to say that over 85% of Year 7 students have not fallen foul of the ready to learn system. They are working hard in every lesson, they're following instructions, they're supportive of other peers in their group, and they're doing everything that we ask for them. Of the 15% that have received 2 warnings in the Ready to Learn system, a further 10% of those have only made that mistake once and have learned from that. So over 95% of Year 7 students, which is phenomenal. It's the best we've ever had, and we're really pleased with how the vast majority of Year 7 students have settled in. And we always really let the students know how we want to work. It's not always silent in lessons. You know, sometimes there can be group work or pair work going on that involves discussion. Obviously, at the moment, it's a little bit more difficult to do that because there's rows, so it is a little bit more working by yourself, which is no bad thing. In terms of high expectations, there isn't a school in the country that would say they have low expectations. But what we've been able to do is really articulate those high expectations. So at the start of the lessons, for example, the student should arrive in an orderly fashion, be welcomed by the teacher, sit where the teacher asks them to, even if it's slightly different for them. Bags under the desk, coats on the back of chairs, those kind of things, and immediately engage with what we call retrieval practice, the work that is available to them as soon as they sit down and enter the classroom. During the lessons, we want them paying attention to wherever the information is coming from. It might be a video, it might be the teacher, it might be another student. We use the phrase track the speaker. When the teacher is questioning, sometimes they will ask for hands up, sometimes they will just select students, and when those students respond, and this is part of our new oracy drive, we really want them to respond in full sentences. At the end of the lesson, once we've cleaned down and wiped down as part of our COVID risk assessments, we want the students to stand quietly behind their chairs and leave in an orderly manner and move around the academy in an orderly manner. Research says that enables us to maximise the learning time we have in each of our lessons, and all the high performing schools in the country emphasise that every second counts, and that's our way of making that happen. It's developing a really strong culture, not just amongst year sevens but across the academy. And while some students need some extra guidance and extra support to meet those expectations, the vast majority are, and we're really pleased with the developing culture at Hanham Woods Academy. We have a reward system, so many of your children will have been issued with wow cards for maybe an amazing piece of work, or maybe because they've kept going when they were struggling with something, or maybe they've helped somebody else, or they've been a good friend, or they've shown extra effort, or they've had pride in their work. Lots of different reasons for receiving wow cards, and they count towards the overall house point cup at the end of each term and at the end of each year, and they're themselves, their tutors and their heads of house are really proud of the students who achieve those. So there's something there that you can ask your child about. Have they received the wow card, and what they have to do to receive it, and could they put that little bit more effort in, or take a little bit more pride in their work so that they are in receipt of a wow card in the near future. You will know from the work we've done on induction, transition evenings, and when you looked around on open evening, that literacy is one of our key drivers at the moment. In terms of writing, we want the students to plan their writing, so really brainstorm their ideas, then really write for extended periods of time where they can demonstrate a point, for example, with evidence and explanations, and link back to the questions all the time. And the really important thing is checking and reviewing their work, either by themselves or with a learning partner, so they can redraft and reshape and make it the best piece of writing. And they go through that cycle of plan, do, review repeatedly. We also want them to have high expectations in terms of spelling, punctuation and grammar. That's our SPAG. So really making sure that they've got the commonly misspelt words being spelt correctly, checking those, putting the correct punctuation in the right place, and being grammatically correct. And increasingly we're looking at driving their reading, and there'll be another presentation about accelerated reader, but their reading is really important because that will extend their vocabulary as they move through their learning. So this is the bit I really wanted to spend some time on. This is around what really, in terms of assessment and delivery, your child can expect throughout this year and beyond. So traditionally, the curriculum has been broken up into chunks. So you can see different coloured chunks there, and at the end of those chunks, the kind of grey intersections there are where we would traditionally have tested them. So we would teach them something, they'd be tested, we teach them something else, we test them on that, we teach them something else, and all of that it goes through the year, and then probably at the end of the year we'd have done a big recap of everything. And we've worked with researchers nationally, but the beauty of being part of Cabot Learning Federation is we've got the best of the best. So the best English teachers, the best maths teachers, of which our teachers are of that, that we can shape and refine both the content of the curriculum, but also the assessment methodology. And increasingly it's being accepted that we should teach, so the blue bit here, a topic, and test them on that topic, but then reteach them the bits that perhaps didn't go so well. Then start teaching the new content, but then test them on the previous work, so the small blue bar there, with the stuff they've just learned, and then reteach them again. New topic, test them on everything they've done, reteach them. And so that kind of teach, test, reteach methodology going all the way through the year is proven to lead to deeper knowledge and deeper recall of key knowledge, key skills and key understanding that they will need as they move through their life. So you will have seen that they've been doing some multiple choice question assessments, some MCQs, just around half term. That was really this first bit up here in the blue, where they'd been taught topic one, they were tested, and then just before and just after half term, they were retaught some work. So, for example, my maths class, we did fractions. The vast majority of them did really, really well. There was a few students in the class, in fact, a lot of students who struggled with equivalent fractions. So we did some reteach on that, and now we've started the next topic. They can expect in their multiple choice questions when they next come round that some of those fraction questions will be built into do the test at that time. And so we work through the year. In terms of assessment, so assessment point 1 is what we've just done really, so the multiple choice assessments. There'll be a second assessment point where we'll do more multiple choice of questions, but the teacher will also do some more controlled assessments, so maybe some more tests, maybe some written work, maybe an extended piece of writing, and all of that will form an assessment point, and that's what we'll record back to you. So at the end of assessment point 2, so around Christmas, just after Christmas, we will report back to you how they've been doing academically in the first 2 terms, which will be based on the MCQs that they sit, but also in-class assessments and classworks and other controlled assessment pieces. And we'll report back to you whether they are deepening, so whether they're beyond what the national expectation is for their age group, whether they're on track, whether they're working at the age-related expectation, whether they're yet to be on track. And that's not necessarily their fault. It may be, for example, in DT or some languages where the primary teaching didn't have any, perhaps in some cases, they're still catching up. And then very few students, but some are at an earlier stage. And you will have been contacted by your child's teacher or head department if that is the case for your child. Now, I just wanted to say a massive thank you for your support and help around the health and safety guidance, particularly in relation to COVID-19 that we've been going through at the moment. So we've really asked you if there are any symptoms in the household not to send your child to the academy. That's really important. That's massively helped us reduce the number of cases we've had. Obviously, that gives you a problem that you're waiting for a test result. I understand from Bristol now that they're coming back quicker. So if you or a member of your household or your son or daughter does have symptoms, keep them at home, contact 111, probably get a test. And once that test is negative, then everyone can go back to normal. If it's positive, follow the guidance from the NHS. We're washing and sanitizing our hands more regularly on arrival at the academy, between lessons and when going into lessons. And as cold and flu season comes in, we want to make sure that we, if for coughs and sneezes, that we use the catch it, bin it, kill it methodology. So using a tissue, catching anything they cough or sneeze, putting it in the bin to kill that virus. Around the academy, we've got a number of one-way systems, which I'll show you in a minute. And we're just asking the students to keep left, keep moving and keep apart whenever possible. This is the bit that young people do really struggle with, and I do get it. We're just asking them that whenever possible, they remind themselves and remind each other to try and keep apart when they're moving around the academy and when they're in the community on their way to and from school as well. Try not to interact with other year groups. Now, I know there's siblings that they live with, but in terms of all other age groups, trying to avoid that so that if there is an infection in another age group, we can keep the year 7 students in school for as long as possible, and keeping 2 meters away from adults. This is really, really important, that young people seem barely affected and are often asymptomatic and don't have any symptoms at all. Adults do, and we have a number of vulnerable staff at school. There's vulnerable people in the community. You may at home, indeed yourself, be vulnerable or have vulnerable relatives. And so we really, really must make sure that the young people are keeping 2 meters away from adults at all time within the school and when they're on their way to and from the academy as well. We're asking them to clean their tables and chairs and equipment thoroughly after use, which they're doing exceptionally well. Make sure they've got the right equipment every day. It's really difficult to lend equipment out, so please make sure they've got the essential equipment. That's really important. On PE days, they can wear PE kit. Please, only black tracksuit bottoms and a black sweatshirt. No greys or greens or blues, and no hoodies, please. Thank you for following that. It's been, I have to say, it's been pretty impressive from year 7 so far. And obviously in some other subjects, music, for example, we've been asked not to or reduce the amount of singing we're doing. In science, reducing the number of practicals. So there are other adaptations we've had to make, and hopefully with the news around vaccinations and things like that, in the near future we'll be able to return to our normal ways of working. There's some one-way systems. So, for example, you might remember the humanities area. So you come in through past the toilets and you have to go out the other way. That's to stop any bottlenecks or students meeting head-on. Likewise in maths and English. And then we've got a number of other one-way systems in narrow pathways around the school. And I have to say, in general, the students have followed that really, really well. The red lines down the middle of the screen are kind of more or less a thoroughfare that goes right through the middle of the school. There's a big red line down the middle, middle, and that's where we ask them to keep left, keep moving, and keep apart. In terms of break and lunchtime, you'll know we have staggered breaks and lunchtimes, and for year 7 they're mainly housed in the red area. So they have the foyer where they can get their food at lunchtime. They have the main hall when it's wet. They have a seating area in the question mark and round by the old gym, and they use the new toilet block in the Key Stage 3 toilet area. And we're hoping that we can start to open up either the Astro courts or the tennis courts, so that at lunchtime particularly they can get up and get some exercise as well. In uniform, I have to say, year 7s have been really, really good. It's very, very impressive. Please make sure that they're wearing their uniform with pride. Please make sure that trainers and things like that don't start to creep in. If your shoes start to not fit because they're growing or they're wearing out, please make sure that they replace those. There's the PE kit for you. In terms of the girls, some were a bit querying about skirt length. It's not so much the skirt length. We've just asked that it is nearer the knee than the hip. We work with business leaders and they said that's what they want in their businesses. So that's what we've gone on. And I have to say the vast majority of year 7 students wear their uniform very, very well. There's very few problems there. So what you can expect from now is that your child's tutor will give you a call. We will open up a booking system for you so that you can book an appointment. It'll be a short video appointment that you have, 5-minute appointment, where your tutor will outline specifically how your child has settled in, anything we want them to work on, not really focusing on academic because they don't have that knowledge. That's just the tutor, how they've settled in socially, emotionally, and those kind of things. Chance for you to raise any issues you may have and to signpost any additional support. And we also have some other presentations available for you when you finish listening to me. They are around our homework system, and I have to say again, the year 7s have followed that really well, around social and emotional aspects of learning, including behaviour, around our reading programs, and around online safety, which is increasingly important in young people. So I'd urge you to take some time to watch those presentations with your child and have a discussion. Thank you very much for listening to me for about 15 minutes. As I say, I would have loved to have done this in person, and sorry we couldn't do that, but I hope to be able to meet you all in person in the very near future. Well done to your child, because they've settled in very, very well. They say the vast majority have left a really, really good first impression. I suppose in many ways they've given themselves a problem in that we know what they're capable of now, and they've set these high expectations and high standards, and they now got to maintain that they live up to them moving forward, which I'm sure they will. And just finally by saying thank you for your support. Please stay safe, look after each other, have a great Christmas when it arrives, and I look forward to hopefully meeting you in person in the new year. Many thanks.